The next day I found myself in the Chobe National Park. At one point, a large male elephant challenged us. What's he doing?
Well, that elephant there is grazing grass.
Yeah, he looks like he's ready to charge us.
It's okay. He'll normally give me some signs and some warnings, and I'll know if it's a dangerous situation or not. He hasn't shown signs of danger or anything, so he's just moving off quietly. So we'll just keep quiet and just watch him.
Finally, the elephant made his decision to back down.
Elderly couple called Pierre and Matthew. They didn't speak any English whatsoever. We needed an interpreter. They made me feel very welcome. Much food as possible given on the plate, most of it being caribou. Caribou stew, caribou steaks, spaghetti and caribou, macaroni and cheese and caribou.
The area I would be staying in is called North Vancouver Island. This is an area known for its wildlife, its native culture, and its rugged wilderness.
I attended a Cree outdoor educational program. The students were being taught by an old Cree trapper, George Jolly. George offered to take me to see his trap lines.
I'm traveling to Nain, Labrador. I'd been flying for quite some time, and I was really amazed when all of a sudden appeared in the midst of all this wilderness was this town. In this town, there's only 3 main roads. Everybody here drives 4x4s because the roads are really rough. During wintertime, they can't even drive their 4x4s. They drive skidoos or these little 4-wheelers that they have. They look like these little buggies.
I decided to go on this trip for 3 reasons. One, because I'd been to Costa Rica before on a conference where I was in quite luxurious settings. I really wanted to see Costa Rica, its people and its land in a more intimate way. The second reason is the trip coincided with changes in my life. And third, it was a risk. I had no idea what I was getting into.
I landed in the city of Nuuk, which is the capital of Greenland, located on the west coast.
As we landed at the airstrip, we were coming into the unknown to a certain extent because, despite my guide Miguel's best efforts, he hadn't been able to convince the pilot to actually bring us to Canis, the village that we were going to. Lucky for me, I didn't actually know how far it was going to be. They told me that it might take me 6 hours, but it turned out to be 9.5 hours of the most difficult walking I've ever done.
I was excited and looking forward to the cruise around the Galapagos Islands, which I knew that we would visit about 5 different points on at least 6 different islands in a total of 13 islands.
I landed in the capital city of Cairo, where I met my guide Henny. Henny told me about a camel market that was just outside Cairo. The local Bedouin brought camels that they hoped to sell.
وبعدين كده غلط عشان كده بكذا وده بكذا بعنا وخلاص ما رضوش تاخدوه يا حاج طيب ما رضوش ياخدوا يا حاج
There were hundreds of camels coming and going, some being sold and traded for transportation or tourism.
So where do all these camels come from?
They come from Sudan through the western deserts.
Do they ride the camels, or are they shipped in trucks?
No, the camel guides actually, they walk next to the camels.
But they walk from Sudan to Aswan?
Oh yeah.
It's a long trip.
They walk about 40 days. And you can see easily the skeletons of the camels. It's amazing. It's like a camel graveyard.
Wow.
Yeah.
I landed in Addis Ababa, the capital city of Ethiopia. The city is sprawling. It's poor. It is a complete culture shock for the North American, with markets and open stalls in the street, and there's open sewers, which lend a decided aroma that we're not used to. Dust, everything's slightly dirty, everything's very real.
After I landed, I rented a car and drove north into the heart of Sami territory. The Sami have traditionally been nomads who raised reindeer in Lapland. Now that the old traditions are vanishing, some of the Sami live in houses and use snowmobiles to herd their animals.
When I first saw the town, I first noticed color. The bright colors of the buildings and the homes caught my eye. I'm very much one that likes visuals, and it's a visually appealing island. It just seemed to be such a busy place. Everyone had somewhere to go, but yet it was so small. And it seems everyone knows everyone.
Up near Georgetown, we crossed to the north side of the Gambia and visited the kind of village that I had always wanted to visit in Africa. One that was hardly influenced by tourists. No corrugated tin roofs, no concrete or plaster. It was just homemade brick and wattle, round houses with the thatched roofs.
Oh, yes. This is what I was telling you about. This is how they...
We saw the women stripping corn from the husks and grinding the grain, making flour.
Beautiful flour.
The flour.
But while we were talking, a crowd was gathering, a crowd of villagers, mostly women, old men, and children. And we just started talking with each other, and they'd show me their babies' pierced ears and their little brothers and sisters.
Hello. Hello. Look at the knees.
And then they started to sing and dance. And these kids were so cute.
I'll be landing in the capital of Accra. Accra is a busy city with a lot happening. Cars and pedestrians, and they all seem to be heading to the market, which was my first destination. The market was filled with all sorts of interesting and exotic shops. What do they use this for?
They are using for medicine.
For medicine?
Yeah.
And what kind of medicines would they make out of this?
Some people use for medicine, for money, love, different kind of things.
Oh, so if you want love or money, you make a special medicine out of...
sick, if they can, you can buy this one too.
My first impression of Georgetown was it's an amazing city. I couldn't believe this beautiful architecture. I wish we could have spent some more time there. As we were leaving, it was a strange feeling that we were leaving civilization and moving on to something a little more exciting.
One thing about Iceland was the air. It was so fresh. And the landscapes were all unspoiled and interesting to look at. All the geysers in the world were named after one enormous geyser in Iceland. But I was watching one that spews water in the air every 3 minutes. This is boiling water that's trapped under cooler water, and then it explodes and shoots up into the air about 20 meters. The forces of nature always amaze me.
I landed in Cochin, one of the busiest ports on the western coast of India. Besides learning about India's history, I wanted to learn about its culture. I was told about an interesting form of dance called Kathakali. The dancers' eyes are always to be expressive, and the nails on their fingers enhance the hand movements. It's a form of dance that tells a story. A Raja was one of the first people to write this type of play, and performances can sometimes go on for hours. Watching the dance was fascinating, It's this type of dance and culture that makes India unique.
I had planned to meet my guide in Kingston, and we would then drive to various points on the island from there. I had read that Kingston is the heartbeat of Jamaica. It has definitely got a big city energy to it. There were some great characters at the market, but I'd never met anyone as lively and spontaneous as the higgler selling jewelry. He started by explaining patois, which is the Jamaican dialect.
No, it is to get along. Like, yeah man, hey man, hold tight, come here.
Yeah.
And what have you? No problem. Bob Marley, don't worry about a thing. Don't worry about a thing. Gonna be alright. Wake up in the morning and the rising sun.
This certainly wasn't the kind of experience I'd ever have at a shop back home. But everyone got into the spirit, and it was a bit of fun that I'll never forget.
I arrived in Jordan's capital city, Amman, and began journeying through the mountains into the desert. One morning I was fortunate enough to accompany two of the Desert Patrol policemen out into the desert. I wonder if they'll let me ride on their camels. Now, it doesn't sound as if the camel's very happy. Okay, left, up, 1, 2, 3. Whoa! Okay, hey, that's not too bad, is it? Then you sit down here. This leg round here, yes? This leg over here.
Yes, okay, very good.
I don't know whether I'm ready for this. Oh my goodness! Oh
On my first day, John, my guide, took me to the market in Bishkek. Lots of people selling every and anything, and everybody wants you to buy something from them. A lot of competition, trying to get your attention.
What do you think?
My guide was very young, a boy of 17. His English was minimal, but we managed to communicate. We moved on to the river village. The village had about 300 people in it. We were invited to stay for a few days. I was to be a guest in the chief's house with his family.
The market of Bamako is very different from the market we have here. They're very dark. The smells are so different because everything is in front of you. Nothing is really canned or really packaged tightly. All the smells integrate. When I went to the marketplace with Koro, it was so colorful. People were very laid back. People seemed very friendly, very open.
Those are more spices,
Koro was just great because she knew so much about it, and she was a really great guide to take me through it.
I met with my guide, Roger.
Nice to meet you.
We're just going to have a look at the Auberge of Castile. This used to be one of the main palaces of the knights here in Malta.
Learning about the knights was fascinating, and Roger explained to me the leader of the knights was called the Grand Master, and that some of the Grand Masters were buried in the cathedral.
This is the sarcophagus of the first Grand Master of Malta. Further back this way we have the second tomb, which belonged to the most famous and most heroic of the Grand Masters, and this was Jean Parisot de la Valette.
Around Marrakesh for the first time.
My guide Jean-Paul took me to the market in Gemma Elfina.
Gemma Elfina is sort of encompassed by umbrella food stands. And once you cross that threshold, you're just bombarded by vendors, and they're all trying to sell you things. As I watched the snake charmer, I was absolutely terrified. But I found out that the snakes had been kept on blocks of ice, and that made them more docile. But knowing it didn't really make it any easier to kiss a snake.
Marrakesh was every sense on 100%.
I mean, I smelt things I'd never smelt before. I tasted things. Mint tea. Oh, I loved it. The noise, the musical instruments. I remember feeling really apprehensive when I approached it, but once in there, I really got caught up in it and enjoyed the noise, the smells, the excitement. That was Marrakesh.
Kathmandu was a lot more like India than I thought it would be. Really bustling and lots of people and markets and activities going on. The other thing that really struck me about Kathmandu was the convoluted streets and the way that nothing was really all that straightforward in the city.
I landed in the capital city of Muscat. Muscat is a beautiful city of white buildings, rich in culture and history. When you hear about the Gulf states, you think of oil, OPEC, and wealthy sheiks. Yet Oman is much more than oil or even desert. It is a country of ancient cultures.
As the airplane reached Papua New Guinea, I could see down below beautiful forests and valleys and winding rivers. It was a very rich, luscious, forested country. I couldn't wait to land.
My plane landed in Dakar, which is the capital city of Senegal and was my first destination. The traffic in Dakar is incredible, and I was so glad not to be behind the wheel. I headed out to explore the rural areas in the southern part of the country. On the way, we stopped in a small village where we came across a cultural center. In one corner was a band playing great music. And in the other corner, there was incredible art going on. Young men were painting with glue and then covering this glue with sand from all across Senegal.
The Basque region comprises provinces in Spain that were once linked to areas in France. The Basque people are the oldest traceable ethnic group in Europe, and they have their own language, government, and unique culture.
My first day in Thailand was in Chiang Rai. It's a busy city with vehicles of every description. Scooters, cars, and rickshaws are all jockeying for position. Street vendors were on every corner, selling everything you could ever want.
At Istanbul, I met Reha, a wonderful guide, and he took me to the covered market. That's a gold mine of wonderful crafts and amazing things, and it was rather fun trying to haggle for a handbag.
22, like 22 million.
It's a beautiful bag, but I don't have that much money.
18 million.
No.
Come on, you believe me, I'm not mafia.
No, just leave it.
Okay, you give me 15.
I'll just leave it.
Okay, you give me 15. Okay, madam, okay, right.
Okay.
Okay.
I landed in Phoenix, capital city of Arizona, and met my guide, Charlene. I was going to spend a few days with her at her mother's ranch. As I was traveling in the Jeep with Charlene, I was very much looking forward to meeting her mom, Helen, because I heard that she ran hundreds of acres of land all by herself.
Hello, Helen. Nice to meet you. Looks like you're doing a lot of hard work out here today. I'm impressed.
We could communicate easily, despite the fact that Helen couldn't speak English and I couldn't speak a word of Navajo. As we walked with the dogs, as they herded the sheep out towards the mesa, Helen told us that she carries a case of dog food on her shoulder 10 miles every day to take to the dogs while they're herding the sheep alone up on the mesa. I couldn't picture my mother walking 10 miles in her high heel shoes back in the city.
I rented a car
and drove to the Big Cypress Seminole Reservation not far from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I found Henry Billy, who's 74 years old, and was carving a dugout canoe. Hello, Henry.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. I asked him to show me how it was done, and I must say that I had great ability for carving canoes. When you finish this one, Henry, can we take it in the swamp and go on it?
Oh, yeah.
You and me. Okay.
Molokai is known as the Friendly Island. The main town of Molokai was quite small. The buildings resembled an old western town and seemed untouched, almost like it would have looked years ago. My first stop was Molokai Ranch, a working cattle ranch. Ranching has been in Hawaii since the early 1800s, which began at a time of the great Hawaiian king, Kamehameha. The king brought in Mexican cowboys, and the great tradition of the Hawaiian cowboy was born. Jimmy was great. He showed me how the cowboys train by practicing riding, herding cattle, and trying to stay on a mechanical bull. While I was ready to give up, Jimmy was not.
So do you think you'll be doing this until you retire?
What would I do if I retired? I'd probably get back on a horse and ride out in the range and help the boys with the cattle and do everything I did on the ranch anyway. So I don't think I'm ready to retire, and I'm not looking forward to retirement.
So you'll just ride on out into the sunset.
That's right. Let the sun set and call it a day.
My journey begins in Sana'a, the capital city of Yemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
There seem to be many different kinds of people in Yemen, but all the ones we met were very kind to us and friendly. May I take his picture? And your picture? And your picture? We take a picture? All right. Okay. I have to be back a little bit.